Hello guys, what is up and welcome back to Flow State. It is episode 19 today and yeah, we've got some running to talk about on my end this week. So I know everyone was probably, hopefully not, but bored out of their skin listening to us talk about cycling, male grooming and whatever the heck else we spoke about last week. I can't even remember at this stage, but I know I had a great time talking about it. I mean, that's all that really matters. But yeah, a little bit more running to talk about on my end. And I'm sure we'll have plenty of training to go over with Adam as well. But hey, look, as always, we might as well start off by chatting about the weather because I think this might be, I don't know what one up from a hat trick is, a quadruplet, but I'm seeing sun splitting stones outside of Adam's window. Adam, give us an update. What's the weather been like in Logan?
Shite. It's been it's been shite, mate, to be totally honest. It's pretty nice this morning, to be fair. It's been warm but pissing rain every day, so you can probably hear I'm a bit grumpier about it.
What's warm?
Yeah, it's been 18,
Oh,
19.
that's pretty okay. Yeah, not
Yeah,
bad.
it is. I'm just back from a run there, actually. Quick shower and then jumping on to chat to my favorite podcast host. But
Man, I'm blushing. Shit.
it was no, this morning's run was pretty good. I missed the rain, and it's like that muggy kind of weather. You know, it's going to rain at some stage today, probably.
Yeah, it's when it smells, right? When it smells like rain is coming or rain is
Yeah,
coming. Oh,
yeah, it's in the air, isn't it? But
yeah.
it's been rubbish, mate. To be totally honest, compared to the beautiful weather that we have had. Although, as you can
Mhm.
see, the sun is shining. Um, but I think there's rain on the way. And then I'm not sure what the weekend's given. I haven't checked the weather forecast 'cause I don't want to depress myself. But I'm still waiting on this amazing summer that we've been promised. So still hopeful for July, August. You know, last year, July and August were, as I said to you before, brutal. So maybe we're going to get that delayed good weather. Normally we get a nice June, but it hasn't been fantastic so far. But
Yeah,
there's
look,
been
it's
a
been a
few
minute.
treadmill sessions this week.
Oh, yeah, I think because I have seen a little bit more activity from you on
Mm.
Strava. I think I saw one of those trip. What was that last week? I can't even remember at this point, but I've definitely seen more activity. So I'm looking forward to getting into that. But honestly, like I haven't lived in the UK since kind of 2018, first half of 2019, and I always remember like June was always a down month, at least in London. Like May is where you'd start to kind of have windows open. You were noticing it was getting into the teens. And I know like Northern Ireland is obviously a little bit different to London, but it was only really when you got on like school holidays. I'm talking like mid-July that you'd start get the late 20s and the consistent nice weather and then into August as well. So I always feel like June's a bit of a weird tease month for the most part.
Mm. We usually get a nice June here, but well, as far as I can really remember, June is usually nice, and then July, August is touch and go. But as you say, London's different weather. You're kind of getting, I don't know, continental weather. Is that the right
Yeah, it probably
expression?
is. Yeah. We're not
Um,
getting is it the Atlantic Ocean bash into the side of you, which causes all kinds of weird weather.
what about you? How's weather in Victoria?
It's been cold, mate, and everyone has had colds. I feel like I've fought off. Like so it's like when I say cold, we've had a couple of days where it like starts early doors at like maybe 2 to 4 degrees, which is quite fresh. Like I know it's Australia, and it doesn't get
Snippy, all
too
right.
kind of freezing, but it's like you said, it's pretty nippy, and then everyone gets sick, man. Like everyone just. I feel like they're just not built for cold weather here, and as soon as it gets below 10 everyone. So obviously working at a gym, I kind of come face to face with a lot of people, have a lot of clients, and it's like every day I'm getting text messages of people saying they're sick, and I myself, I feel like I've fought off 2 colds in the last 2 weeks. I'm immune system of steel at this stage. But yeah, it's kind of winter hits hard here. You kind of you feel it for sure. Even though so last week we had a public holiday or bank holiday weekend, and you're thinking like, yep, great public holiday, gonna make the most of it. And the weather was, as you said, shite through all of it. Like it was pissing it down from Saturday through Monday, and the kind of rain where you could do nothing. You can't go anywhere outside. It was just dreadful. Um, so yeah, glad that's gone, and hopefully this week it's going to be. I mean, today it was kind of mid-teens, and then over the weekend it's supposed to be a little bit cooler, but at least not raining. So yeah, I can't complain too much. But
Good.
yeah, we'll
Good.
see
When we
what.
lived there, when we lived in the town called Mansfield in Australia, and lived there through these months. Like we were doing our regional work. It was like May. Oh, was it? Yeah, May, June, July. We actually stayed for August and a bit of September as well. We kind of stayed a little bit longer, but the weather, I loved it actually because we got really lucky. It was clear and crisp and bright every day, and it was perfect for running. I think I sent you some. Did I send you some photos of that place? Like the
No, you
dirt
haven't yet.
roads. It was kind of like
I want to
I
see
must
some.
send you some. It was kind of like what you would think Kenya would look like. It was like running in the Rift
Yeah,
Valley every day.
yeah.
Dirt roads that just stretch for miles and miles and miles through like these paddocks and stuff. So I absolutely loved training there, and it wasn't the typical Irish winter where you're getting battered by rain and wind. It was just cold but crisp and nice, and that's where I trained for Melbourne Marathon. So I have fond memories of winter in Victoria, but it's definitely not just as grim
Yeah, for
as the UK
sure.
and Ireland. But no, you've been doing a bit more running this week, which I'm sure we'll get to.
Hmm.
Um, Anything else happening with you?
Now I can honestly say it's been a pretty uneventful time. I feel like my life has, I shouldn't say revolved around running because it definitely hasn't. But I've just been I've enjoyed running this week. So I've been in a much better mood. So I think we touched on it last week. I had that week where I was like I wouldn't say stuck on the bike. Like I really enjoyed doing some bike training, but I was stuck on the elliptical. And it was just getting in my head. I was like, I feel so it's so depressing being like the only training I can do is not even indoor training, but it's like suboptimal indoor training where it's hard to get my heart rate above what is like an easy aerobic pace. So the fact that I've been able to run, yeah, albeit at I'm happy to go over my week. It's normally you, Adam, that kicks us off, but why don't I kind
Well,
of
I
start things
actually
today?
wanted to ask you just before.
Mm.
Did you catch any of the Oslo Diamond League Bislett Games?
I didn't.
It was
I heard
It's
the
probably
boys
like
because
very early morning for you this morning, whereas it was like last night for me. It was probably actually middle of the night for you. I'm just thinking.
depending on Oslo wouldn't have been a great. I mean, that's same as BST, I think, if not an hour
I was
different. But no,
watching. I was watching it at like I think like 9 p.m. last night. So my 9 p.m. is probably your like waking time,
yeah,
like 4
that's
5 a.m.
yeah, it's actually 5 a.m. So no, I was actually at work. Believe it or not, I'm at work at five
Yeah.
a.m. How crazy
Oh,
is that? But no,
it was
tell
it
because
was it was unreal. So there was a couple of races that really stood out. Obviously, being a distance runner, I'm interested in the distance events. I'm not really into the field events. I mean, I watch them when they're on, but I watch the athletics for the distance events mainly and some of the sprints. But the men's 5,000 meters was unbelievable. Nico Young, the American, I think he's like 22, 23. He was an NCAA, yeah, cracking NCAA runner. I think he was potentially cross country champion. I'm not 100% sure, but he ran 12:45 in his Diamond League debut, which is
Jesus.
inside, just to put it into perspective, inside 10 seconds of the world record, and he only now trails Grant Fisher on the US all-time list. Grant Fisher ran 12:44 indoors, so he ran that very recently. So he now only trails Grant Fisher on that US all-time list. So there's been a massive renaissance in US distance running, and it's obviously been coming for a number of years. This doesn't just happen overnight, but there was a time not so long ago when the US was absolutely starved of distance running success, and like I said, there's been a decent comeback or renaissance of it. So that was just an unreal run. He ran. I think like I was reading an article this morning when I got up, and something like he's the first US athlete in Diamond League history, which is, I think Diamond League's been going for 16 years, 17 years maybe. I hope I haven't butchered that. But he's the first US man in Diamond League history to beat like the East Africans and the Europeans. So yeah, that's going to really get the American distance running fans juices flowing. So unreal. there was it was a good race. I mean, it suited the likes of Nico Young, and even I don't know if you've heard of George Mills, English athlete.
No.
He ran a national record, 12:45. He was second. Sorry, he wasn't second. He actually fell away in the last last like 100 meters, but 12-second PB for him. His dad was Danny Mills, who was a ex-footballer, Man City player.
Danny
I think he
Mill.
played
Yeah,
with he played
I
for
think I've
Norwich,
heard of him.
Leeds, City.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
played for City for about 3 or 4 years, I think. But
Mills.
George Mills is his son, and he runs for On Running. So he's
Yeah,
been,
I remember him. He was in
yeah,
he made it to the England squad, didn't he?
he did, yeah. Yeah, he
Briefly.
did. So George is his son, and he's obviously a top runner now.
Yeah, yeah.
He was an 800 meter, I think, growing up, and then he's kind of moved up the distances quite successfully. He's been more successful at the sort of the 5,000 than he ever was as a 800 1500 runner. But yeah, it was an unreal race. It was an unreal race because they were going a little bit slower than what the commentators expected, and then that really suited like the European and the American runners. And yeah, he just blitzed them. Nico Young just blitzed them in the last couple of hundred, and yeah, won the race in his Diamond League debut. So it was class. And then we had Christian Moorholm, the hurdler, in the 300-meter hurdles, which was a strange distance. You know, it's not a common 300-meter hurdles. Isn't a common
It's really
distance.
not.
Bislett Games has like the mile, and it also has 300-meter hurdles. It has some sort of different events, but he ran a world record in the 300 hurdles. Not that there's been too many. I think it was his own world record he broke, but he smashed it. How he just kicks off, the way he just kicks off the last couple of hurdles, he just puts daylight between him and the competitors. It's unreal to watch. So yeah, it was good. It was pretty cool. I'd love to go over and watch the likes of Diamond League in Oslo or something like that at some stage.
Yeah, Oslo's pretty easy to get to. I mean, I went a couple of years back. It's not too bad. I mean, and we went in peak winter, so I'm talking it was -10 and covered in snow. So, and we made it. And in fact, Nicole was actually pregnant when we did that, which is a little bit rough on her part. But yeah, Oslo's great to get over to, and I think it's meant to be really nice around this time of year
It looked
because
it.
it's they don't really have summer in Oslo. It gets to like, I think the very highest they'll get is mid-20s, and that'll be very brief. But I think the city just becomes a really nice place. So probably a nice little trip to go over. But it's funny you actually say that because obviously my main podcast listening is the Inside Running Boys, and they're obviously like following the Aussie contingent that kind of are part of the Diamond League. So I hear bits and pieces, and I've never really watched athletics. I don't have much time to watch anything really outside of what I watch with Nicole, to be honest with you, apart from football. But I need to tune in because I did know it was happening. I just couldn't have told you when. But the other thing that was interesting, how you're talking about I guess the American contingent are starting to kind of come up the world ranks. It was I was listening to the other podcast. I found the Physiology of Endurance. Finally, I jumped on board. I was convinced it wasn't on Spotify, but then all it took was a little bit of a deeper dig, and I found it. And it was the episode they were talking about the Norwegian singles training. It was a week and a half ago or
Yeah.
so, and I think they were mentioning how the US basically, especially at collegiate level, just even as recently as like 5-10 years ago, they just go with that approach. It was like, just hammer your athletes. If they're not running at like 10 out of 10 balls to the wall every session, they're not making progress. And that was obviously holding them back for what is probably a very long time. And it's only recently that they've gone, okay, maybe we had it wrong all along. And the science-based approach where we're looking at kind of that sub-maximal training or working around these thresholds is actually working. So, and the Americans have always had the advantage. They've got a massive pool to choose from. They've got a huge population. They've got so many different nationalities. It's like it's inevitable they're going to start to get basically some world record breakers.
Yeah, I think
So
you're absolutely
yeah,
right. They dumped the notion of volume in favor of intensity, and it was this pendulum swing from volume based approach that was really successful back in the day, to an intensity based approach. And in typical American fashion, they don't do things by half measures. It's, you're at one side or the other. And when they ditched the volume approach for the high intensity approach, it just it didn't work. And they were starved of success for quite a long period of time. And now eventually these runners that have been training in a good system, i.e. high volume, submaximal, threshold, whichever way we want to talk about it, aerobic training, we're now starting to see the fruits of that work. So yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? But that
Wait,
was good. That was a good listen. That podcast. It was
it was
with
good, wasn't it?
James Copeland,
The
also known as Sir Pock or
That's it,
Stripe.
Sir
I don't
Park.
even know. Yeah, he's
Yeah, something like that.
we're going into the depths of Let's Run threads now.
Yeah, yeah. I've never
Anyone
even
that's
been on
familiar,
Let's Run. That's the thing.
it's good for a raid mate now and then, but you'll lose yourself in it. There is some good
It's a
threads.
bit
That thread that
controversial.
it is, mate. It's yeah. There's a lot of crap on there and a lot of bad stuff, but it's pretty interesting as well. That's a good thread. The thread that they're actually talking about, the Norwegian singles.
Hmm.
It's James's, or Sir Pock's, it's his sort of experience with submaximal or sub-threshold training, um, and he's really good at like laying what he did out and sort of showing the ins and outs. But that's a great listen with the two
Hmm.
lads on Inside Running, a really good listen. Or sorry, not Inside Running, the Physiology of Endurance.
Yeah, I did enjoy it. I think it's one of those things where I listen to the Inside Boys, same as you, man, because you get so much banter. You get they're kind of talking a little bit of shit. You get the good stuff as well, but they're not mega nerds. They're just like a bunch of Aussie dudes that are pretty good at running and chat about running. Whereas I could tell as soon as not that like Dan and I think it's Owen.
That's the
They're
one.
clearly like super super smart, and they've definitely got the qualifications behind them. But you listen to them, and it's like you can tell that they maybe lack charisma's maybe not the word, but they lack the personality that gets you listening to it for entertainment. Like I was there listening to it for for information, for knowledge, and
Yeah.
I think I was like, that's good for me because I like having a balance. I like being able to listen to the Inside Boys because you can just switch off, you can have a laugh, but then if you actually want to learn something, the physiology was fantastic, and it did get me like coming away from it thinking, because I know Dan, as you said, who trains Brady from Inside now, they were
That's
talking
right.
about doing a lot of the training um, to heart rate, and I was like, the more I kind of understand it, the more I'm like, there's a lot of value in this. Obviously, it comes with the caveat that you'd probably need to know your kind of corresponding heart rate to your lactate inflection points, and you'd have to ideally do some testing. But you can get a rough gauge. It's like um, David's got a rough gauge of where my lactate thresholds are, and I've never done testing. And based on my race results, he was pretty damn close. So it's like when you're doing, I'm starting to think now that instead of always kind of running to pace, especially when you're doing these threshold sessions, right? Instead of running to pace, where you're kind of, which is what I've typically done as you get more advanced, is going, okay, I'm going to run to heart rate and literally just look at heart rate and time and duration. And so then you've got a really good way to observe progressive overload, because if you're sticking at or slightly under this target heart rate, you can then look at your paces afterwards and go, well, okay, today was maybe a little bit slower. That's fine. Next week, it's a little bit faster. Week after, it stays the same, and so on. But when you take like a more macroscopic view, let's say you're looking over 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 24 weeks, you can go, okay, well, look, I've been sticking at my same heart rate, and over time, my paces have gone up or not. And that's probably the one of the best ways to tell if you're progressing, essentially. So yeah, so something so simple. It's like, this is obviously the idea. If you don't have, or you don't want to take lactates during every threshold session, that's probably the next best thing, surely.
Yeah, well, it's bloody expensive to take lactates every
Yeah,
session.
true.
Each,
Bloody
I think every
expensive to get one in the first place.
well,
The
a
tester
lactate
alone.
meter's pretty expensive, but then I think each strip is worth about £2, maybe 2.50. So for every single time you test your blood lactate, it's maybe
Two
it's
pound.
maybe £2.
£2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So if you're doing that a lot, it's going to quickly add up. So I actually done a little bit of testing this week. Um, I like to
You're
do
a
it as a
poorer
sort
man
of
for it.
I'm a poor man for it, but no. Well, I'm richer in information, and that's
I
key, isn't
like that.
it? Richer in knowledge, but
That's what. Hold on. The flow state motto should be, uh, poor in poor in finances, rich in knowledge.
no, but just to go back to touch on what you said there about using heart rate as a proxy for exercise intensity, and obviously that's been done and is being done by so many athletes throughout the world at all levels. But there's also a risk there in that we know sort of blood lactate paints the picture on exercise
Mm.
intensity, or more importantly, uh, like metabolism, or sort of your metabolic state, or rate of glycolysis, whatever way you want to think about it. Um, but so what I've found through testing lactate and sort of corresponding lactate with pace, with heart rate, with rate of perceived exertion. You know, you're looking at sort of 4 or 5 metrics there. And for me, the rate of perceived exertion is kind of the number one, which I'll come back to when I kind of go full circle on this, back to the lactate. But like, and I think I mentioned this a lot of weeks ago, but sometimes if you're in a really well rested state, if you're fresh and things are going really well and like you're popping, what you can see is pace being in a really good place. So running speed is fast. You can see lactate is low, which,
Mhm.
like I said, is the gold standard of let's just call it exercise intensity. So lactate is low, so the quote unquote exercise intensity is relatively low, but heart rate can actually be high. Okay, for given pace, and that's actually a good sign that you're working in a really efficient way, because I'm sure you've heard of like central governor theory, where the brain kind of works with the body. I'm going to butcher this, and
Mm.
should have really prepared something, but the brain kind of works with the body and releases the brake, the governor. Do you know? So when you're in a really well rested state, i.e., race scenario, which is why you shouldn't race to heart rate and so on, in my opinion. But
Mm.
when you're in a really well rested state, i.e., like you're tapered for a race, or you're just fresh and you're just running really well in a session, one of those nights, like I said, you could run all night and you wish you had a race that day. That's when the brain is kind of releasing the handbrake a little bit, and it's allowing your body to express its fitness.
Mm.
Okay, and it is kind of this notion of supercompensation or central governor theory, or whichever way you want to think about it. And similarly, when you're when you're loaded with training, I think one of the Ingebrigtsen brothers mentioned about Jakob a couple of months ago when he won a race, and they were like, he's just done this and he's currently loaded with training. You want to see what he's going to do when he actually peaks. And let's just say you train in that fatigued state, which of course as athletes we do quite a lot, and we train with some fatigue in our body. The brain kind of puts a bit of a handbrake on. And what happens in those instances is the running pace might be okay, relatively good. The lactate might be absolutely fine as well, but what you'll see is the heart rate will be lower.
Mm.
So and the perception of effort will also be high. So I know I've just said a load of things there, and it might not make much sense, but really the way I want to kind of bring this back to, and I sort of want to touch on this using heart rate as that proxy for exercise intensity, is that it doesn't always paint the full picture, particularly at those sub threshold intensities, or that like high end aerobic intensity, and I'm seeing that with I've seen it in both theory and practice, um, whilst testing myself, and it's really interesting. So sometimes you see in a higher heart rate, but you know what? It's probably not a bad thing, because if let's say you are having one of those nights when everything's absolutely going great and the heart rate's climbing, but you feel absolutely amazing and the speed's good and like the perception of effort's low, that's your green light. But because you're training to heart rate, you might say back it off 5 or 6
Mm.
beats. That's not a bad thing, because you're still going to be within the zone that you're trying to train,
Yep.
as opposed to pushing it even higher and going
Mhm.
beyond it. So at least it's kind of that theory, or that set of principles, or whatever way you want to think about it. it works well because it does prevent you from overstretching in a session, if that makes sense. So
Yeah,
I personally believe, like, yes, lactate is the gold standard, and measuring lactate is the gold standard of exercise intensity, particularly at those sub thresholds. But we don't do it all the time. I put up a post yesterday, like on Instagram. It's great to test every now and then if you have access to it. Like literally, I would do it maybe a few times a year. Um, but it's not fun. It takes the fun out of your session. And to me, not being a professional runner, like fun is one of the most important things in training for me. And just to bring it back then, sorry, the point that I really want to make is that for me, that rate of perceived exertion, like the brain just tells you everything you need to know. Once you understand the principles and the fundamentals of training and you kind of have a gauge of where heart rates could be at thresholds, the brain is the number one. I believe that the rate of perceived exertion is the only thing you really need to listen to, because it's so easy to just go over that line, particularly if you're training outdoors. On a treadmill, it's really easy to control exercise intensity. You're not dealing with the wind, you're not dealing with hills and so on. But if you're training outdoors, yeah, if you're not really in tune with your body, it's so easy just to go over that edge.
yeah. I mean, all makes sense, and I completely agree. I think we're looking at these things as though they're all in the shadow of taking these blood lactates. So none of it is kind of the optimal scenario. But I guess from my perspective, all I think is that if we're at least with like something like RPE, rate perceived exertion, and thinking about how you're feeling, obviously that's going to be really difficult, I think, for most people. Like we look at it in resistance training, there's been studies on it. Humans are typically not great at listening to their body, and that's not the same for everyone, but for a lot, I'd even go as far as to say for most people, we're very inaccurate at judging how we feel. So I think at least from the standpoint of heart rate is you have a metric. And yes, like you said, I think it's not going to be that there's so many other things that affect heart rate that are going to kind of influence how hard you push and potentially take away from the productivity of a session. But I think unless you're someone that's like really confident, or at least kind of in that high intermediate going into advanced runner, like even I probably wouldn't be, let's say I was programmed a session, working at like going by feel, or like regularly assigned sessions where I was told to go by feel. I think I'd struggle with that. Whereas at least with that heart rate, you can go, okay, I've got something, and maybe you could like combine the two, be like, look, well, these are the heart rates I want to stay under. If you're feeling, if you're feeling like you're kind of overworking, or you're kind of pushing beyond that kind of 8 out of 10, like dial it back to the lower end of the spectrum, end of the threshold, and vice versa. That could be an option, but I think, yeah, it's all. I think it's obviously all subjective as to what is going to work best. And like you said, there's probably pros and cons in both. And the main thing is that just it's probably more beneficial to be a little bit under where you're kind of that red line, as opposed to being a little bit over. So
Yeah,
yeah.
there's no doubt about it.
Mm.
If you're in doubt at all, it's below you want to be. Because as soon as you go over that sort of second turn point, or like we mentioned again before, there's no actual standard metric for LT2. There's no, we don't, in the world of physiology, there's no, like, some people consider it to be 4 millimoles. Some people consider it to be like an actual inflection point that you have to sort of plot on a graph. But whichever way you consider LT2 or second threshold, second turn point, it's so important to be under it, not over it, which is kind of what I'm testing a little bit at the minute. It's like I'm gauging those kind of thresholds and those turn points, and also sort of finding the optimal or the sweet spot to train at that is beneficial for my fitness without the cost on my recovery. That's the thing we always have to think about, because as soon as you go over that turn point, the the cost from a recovery perspective goes exponentially higher, and like you can't stack together a lot of work in a in a big space of time, i.e., a block. So it's like you have to think to yourself, training is about getting a body of work and about stacking together a huge volume of work, or as much work as you can possibly do within uh, a period of time. And the more controlled your training is, or trying to get your training at exactly the right, or close to the right level without putting that cost on your body, is just going to facilitate much more work, and more work equals more fitness. Simple.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
that's it.
on that point, you got me thinking about your training, Adam, and I know that's actually been a pretty good rabbit hole there. Half an hour in, and we're finally getting to training, but it does make me
Bit of
want
a nerdy
to.
one, wasn't it?
It was, man. I quite enjoyed it, frankly. It's been a while since we started off with a nice nerdy hash out, but yeah, talk to me about your training, man. What's been happening on that point? What have we been doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Training's been good, mate. It's been great. Where did we finish up? I've just pulled up my training in front of me. Yeah, so finished up last week. Got out for a jog after we finished. 67 minutes and 9.2 miles. So 7:20 a mile pace last Friday morning after
Oddly
we finished chatting.
specific.
Mm.
What was the reason for that? Just it was
Nah,
like, yeah,
just
done.
don't know. I, I don't know.
It's like,
Um,
all I can think of, you've seen Forrest Gump where he just starts running and then eventually he's like, yeah, done.
Yeah,
Don't want to run
that's
anymore.
pretty much how I finish an easy run. I've stopped the whole like jog until your watch hits a very specific number. This run was 9.26 miles and 67 minutes. So yeah, I'm over the finish it at 9.5 or finish it at 9 or whatever. I just stop and done.
Mate,
That's
you're
enough.
actually a running hipster, I feel.
Mate, are you taking the piss out of me?
No, in the nicest way possible.
No,
Um,
I'm joking.
Go on.
Saturday morning, yeah, Saturday morning I did 3 by 12 minutes. So, 10 miles, 3 by 12 minutes, starting like 5:50 per mile down to about 5:40 per mile. So, sort of starting slower than marathon pace and getting down to about marathon pace, just that low end threshold that we've just sort of talked about for a while. That was good. And then Sunday morning, easy long run with the lads, 14.13 miles, 7:31 per mile pace, 1 hour 46 minutes. From memory, that was actually, remember I was telling you about shoes and getting the piss taken out of you when you come out in new shoes?
Yes,
Well, that
yes.
run, nobody had new shoes on, as far as I can remember. But that run was four lads taking the absolute piss out of each other for an hour and 45 minutes. So that was good crack.
What did you get bantered for, out of interest?
Oh, mate, I can't even remember. I actually can't even remember. It's probably not. It's probably not appropriate for the airwaves. I might have to tell you afterwards. No, I actually can't remember. But
Okay,
I just
fair,
remember
fair.
laughing. I remember having a sore stomach when I came home. It was funny. Yeah, it's funny. So Monday morning then, 10k, 7:18 per mile. Sorry, I just realised I'm flicking between Ks and miles, but it was 10k on the button because I remember seeing it on Training Peaks when I came home. 7:18 per mile, 45 minutes. And then PM, I did another 10k, 6:50 per mile, 42 minutes. That was on the grass, the second run. It was nice and dry, so I did a few surges during that run as well, just to sort of wake the legs up a little bit. And then Tuesday, I started into some threshold testing for the week. I did 12 times 3 minutes 30, sort of equivalent to 12 times a K. Did it on the treadmill just for the consistency and so I could test. Like, testing outside's really difficult because, yeah, you have to leave a very expensive lactate meter lying somewhere and it's not the best thing to be at. So, plus it's quite difficult to test outside when you've got the elements to deal with and you're trying to dry the sweat on your finger, you're trying to use the lancet, you're trying to draw blood, you're trying to get the strip into the meter. It's just a whole handling. So done that in the treadmill. I kept the I kept the blood lactate under 2.5 millimoles. So um, there's a reason for that as well, which I'll come to in a second, around keeping it under 2.5 millimoles, which is kind of like that sort of, it's above LT1, but it's like, it's sort of low in terms of the spectrum of threshold. So that was good. I can't remember. I haven't written here what pace. No, I haven't written what pace I ran. I can't remember, but the sort of heart rate for those efforts was getting up to like about 145 throughout. Got a little bit higher towards the end as I was just absolutely sweating. 148 during the last rep, but the lactate stayed like
Stayed low.
2 point. I think it was like 2.2 millimoles at the end. So that was good. Then Tuesday night I did not. I wouldn't even call this like a double threshold. It was like a grass run, so it was 10K on the grass, but I started easy and got moving. So kind of did like, it was just a progression run. When you look at my heart rate, it just progressed nicely up through the zones, or through the, yeah, and sort of finished at sub 6 minute miling, which was nice. That was a good run, sort of 10Ks, 6:29 per mile, 40 minutes. Wednesday, and then was coaching Tuesday night with the club. I obviously wasn't training after my own training for the day, so coached with the club on Tuesday night, where guys did a nice fartlek session. The weather was perfect, so that was good. Wednesday, easy jog in the morning, 6 miles, 7:30 per mile, 47 minutes. And then we had the social on Wednesday night. And then yesterday, Thursday, I did some more testing on the treadmill. I did 5 by 6 minutes off a minute at sub 2.5 millimole. And just by the way, anyone that's sort of listening to this and hearing millimoles or whatever, that basically means that like marathon effort, or sort of close to it, not much faster than marathon effort. It's essentially a threshold workout, but keeping it at a very much a sub threshold. So it's very controlled and the recovery is quick. And then I did at the end 6 by 1 minute off 30 seconds. Just getting progressively faster to about 3:05, 3:03 per K pace. And felt good. So that was the week of training. And just to bring it back to those 2 sessions that I tested in, just keeping it under 2.5 millimoles. I'm racing, well, if I'm thinking into the future, I'm racing tonight, which is actually Wednesday. So when the listener is listening, I'll be hopefully racing a half marathon actually, in Lisburn. So the reason for keeping those sessions quite low in the threshold spectrum is just to allow for good recovery between now and then. So still getting the work in, but enabling fast recovery. So keeping it at, like, I know that keeping my threshold sub 3 or more like sub 2.5 millimole, sub 2.5 millimole rather, is going to, that's going to allow me to recover much quicker and therefore be a bit fresher on the race on Wednesday night.
Dial it back a little bit. Well, I didn't know about this. You're doing a midweek, not only a midweek half marathon, an evening midweek
Yeah, it's
half
mad.
marathon.
It's such a weird.
What's going on there? Talk me through that.
Yeah, Lisburn half. I did it last. It was actually the first ever half marathon I did way back in 2018. And then I ran it last year for the first time since. Came third last year, and racing it again this Wednesday / tonight, whatever way you want to think about it. That's a bit confusing for me. So yeah, that's happening. It was like 24 degrees last year as well. It was brutal. So hopefully the conditions are a bit nicer this year.
What time's kickoff?
7 p.m.
Pretty late. If that was me, all I'd think about is like, man, if I, like, even after recording a podcast for reference, it's it's nearly 7 p.m. here in Melbourne. I'm pretty wired for a bit. Like, I've got the lights on. If I was to run a half marathon at this time, mate, I'm not getting to sleep for at least kind of like 4 or 5 hours afterwards, I reckon.
Yeah, no, you're right.
It's a late one, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, but sure, bit of crack.
But hey, what I'm gonna say though is, I know I gave you it wasn't a hard time, but I gave you a little bit of a push, I suppose, to win I'm going to use the word win, the Logan Park run a few weeks back. You came third last year in the Lisbon half. I want you to win it, my friend. I've got.
I'd like to win it too, mate.
I want you to win it. Like
Yeah,
there
so
is
I
no.
will see how things
Yeah,
go. Yeah, there'd be no doubt there'd be some fast guys there. So yeah, you just race whatever's in front of you, and I always just think to myself, just do my best, and my best is always good enough. So that's good enough for me. But I'll try my best for you, mate.
yes, please, man. I'll be eagerly awaiting because that'll be shortly before I wake
Just
up.
go
I
out
think
like
7
just
p.m.
go out kamikaze first kilometer
Just
just to get
do it.
myself to the front.
That's how the Japanese run, eh? The Japanese. I hear that they like to kind of go super hard at the start and then just pick up
Yeah,
with whatever's left. That's like a I don't know
die
if
at
that's
the
a
end.
cultural thing,
Yeah,
but yeah,
it is a cultural thing. It's a bit mad actually what the Japanese do. It's
yeah. There's no rhyme or reason. It's just we're going to go as hard as we
no,
can and
and
then
for
just
for a nation that they're very intelligent people.
they're very conservative as well.
Yeah, and then
So
the
it
way they
makes no
race,
sense.
it doesn't. But as you say, it's in the culture of distance running in Japan that's just what they do. Kind of
Yeah,
born from the Ekiden racing,
yeah,
where
yeah.
it's just eyeballs out from start to finish. Well, start to whenever you blow a gasket,
Basically,
and then it's just yeah. But it's yeah. I don't know. It's crazy, isn't it? How they race. It's kind of funny to watch. I
so,
think they're a bit dramatic as well. The way they come over the line. Do you ever see any of them coming
I
over the
think so.
line? And
Yeah, I saw
oh, it's
because
it's
they
as
had
if
it. We
like
had
the
all like the Tokyo and the Osaka at the start of the year, and I was seeing some footage of that, and they're basically dying, or they're making out as though they're dying. And we're going to offend if we have any Japanese watchers. We've just offended those guys too. Sorry about
yeah.
that, but yeah,
Well, it's you.
it's
You seem
weird.
you seem to be doing the offending myth.
That's all right. I'm
No,
pretty
I'm only
used to
joking.
offending people, to be honest with you. Like,
I'm only
yeah,
joking. Nah, you
come at
don't,
me.
mate. You don't, mate. You can get away with it.
I'd say it's the accent that I can get away with, but I reckon you could get away with more with an Irish accent. I think people really respond well to that, honestly.
Yeah, well, we'll not take the piss out of too many people.
Nah,
Anyways, what's
we'll stop
what's
there,
been happening in the training world of Luke?
mate. I've been running. Yay! Insert like
Good stuff.
clapping noise in the background. Yeah, no, it's been great. So I basically where did we end up? So last Friday I had a really good session on the bike, and
We
I
ended up
planned
talking
to.
about your shaving habits.
Yeah, we did. Crikey. And I was thinking about it because I had my Friday's my shaving day and I was in the shower shaving, funnily enough. And I do my face as well while I'm there because I might as well. And I decided to shave the moustache off and I
Oh
shouldn't
yeah,
have
so
done,
you
man.
have.
I shouldn't have done because I've lost what little like kind of let's call it facial personality I had. And I look like I'm 12 and
You do look
I,
about 12 though.
I do, mate. Honestly, I think when I collect my little one from daycare on a Friday and I've shaved my mustache, they're like, "Oh, you looking for your little brother?" And I'm like, "No, it's my son, actually." Um, but yeah, anyway, enough about my what little facial hair I have. Um, yeah, Sunday I had planned. So basically, all my training was geared up towards getting back into some running Monday or this Monday gone. So Sunday I had a pretty long session on the indoor bike, and the weather was shite, so I was kind of glad about it. And where I'm faced, I basically open my garage up and I have the indoor trainer just on the edge, so I'm looking out into the wide world, and it's not much of a view, but you can see a little bit. And I was there, I was just watching it piss down for like, I was basically on the bike for about 2 hours. And I was like, man, it is such a shocking day. I'm quite glad I'm not out there running today. But that was a pretty fun session. And then Monday, I took my shoes to work. I was like, I'm going to plan on doing basically as long as I can and just see how my heel responds because I've been working with the physio still and we're basically working around the pain from the plantar fasciitis. The bursitis isn't really an issue. It's the plantar fasciitis, and is what was causing the bruising that I had a few weeks back. So um, I was like, yeah, I'll see how it goes. I've got orthopedics in, and what have I got? I wrote down that my notes were, basically it felt good. Energy level was very high, as you can imagine. Like doing sessions on the bike and having a week where I did no running the week prior or no meaningful running, I was basically like well rested, and I was like bouncing. I genuinely felt like my joints were just like fresh as anything. And I think it was a little bit uncomfortable to start with. And anyone that's had plantar fasciitis knows that it normally starts off a little bit iffy, and then as the musculature in the bottom of the foot gets warmed up, it starts to ease. And I wouldn't say it was perfect through the run. There was, I was like very aware of it, but I could run, and I wasn't changing my kind of foot striking. I wasn't being kind of like wincing like I was a couple of weeks ago. So I got through basically 10Ks nice and slow. We're talking like 5:30, 5:40 at times. I was just like, just want to get through the run. And it was such good fun. Like the sun was shining. It was splitting the stones. And even though I'm running around what is basically an industrial estate, I was like, this is the best thing ever. Like I was just happy to be running. So I got through 10K, and then Tuesday I did a little bit of a double session. So my plan was to ease back on the running, because normally I'd do a treadmill interval session on a Tuesday, but I was like, in the morning I'll do 6K, nice and easy, like very, very slow. It's about half an hour. And then I got home and did my just some like aerobic efforts on the bike where I got the heart rate up. And again, the hill felt very similar. Was like just slightly better than Monday, maybe, but not perfect. But yeah, it was kind of okay to run through. And then Wednesday, this was the test. I was like, okay, the hill seems to be feeling better every day. I had the um not Adios, the Adizero, uh the Evo SL, that's the word I'm looking for. I had the Evo SLs. I was like, I'm going to take them out. I'm going to set myself, because normally on my Wednesday it's my kind of long easy run. So I used to do 12 and I bumped it up to 15. So I said, look, I'll do minimum of 10 and I'll see how I get on. Well, 10 was at least the target. Like if I needed to stop at 2K, I would have stopped at 2K. And I think I've said this before. I think the Evo SLs I've got are maybe slightly too big, at least to start with. So I put the insoles in them and I was running. I was like, oh, this feels a little bit uncomfortable. And I can always feel like rubbing on my heel, or on my bad heel, which is my left one. But I wasn't sure if it was rubbing or if it was the heel that was getting aggravated. So I kind of stopped. I moved them around a little bit and I really locked down the shoe. I started running again. I was like, it was like a night and day difference. I was like, okay, this feels good now. And to cut a long story short, this was the first run where I was like, I get the Evo SLs, like I get them, right? Because I'm not sure if it was a case of maybe my feet swelling up as they got a little bit warmer, but I ended up doing 15K. The hill just felt better and better as it went on. And I was like, man, I could, if someone was like, I want you to run another 15K, just like nice and easy, I would have bitten their hand off, because it was fantastic. I was like runner's high by the end of it. I was like, the shoes felt fantastic. Like I was like, this for me, they're a long run shoe. Like I wouldn't want to necessarily go fast in them, but if someone was like, I need you to do a slow long run, I'd be taking the Evo
See,
SLs for sure.
yeah, that's where I disagree on that shoe. But it's just like how that shoe feels for me
Yeah.
is not a long run shoe. I think it doesn't give enough support for a long run. I mean, like, do you remember I was saying if you were really, really fresh, it would feel great in the long run because it's light, it's nimble, it's like it's got a nice like pop to it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. But I would just think at the end of a training week, you want to run for like an hour and 30 to 2 hours or more, maybe. I just think after that first hour, you need a little bit more support unless you're feeling really fresh. Whereas I like chucking that shoe on for a workout. Not so much on the treadmill because it is quite soft, and I think with the treadmill being a softer surface, I kind of like something a bit firmer.
Yep.
Remember I was talking to you about the Deviate Nitro 3, but
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I love the Evo SL, but just not for anything really over an hour. I just don't think it offers enough support. I was interested to hear you say you put the Evo SL on, because what I was just going to say is I feel like that shoe wouldn't be the best shoe for plantar fasciitis. Um, and again, like, I'm not a shoe expert. I'm not a podiatrist, not a physio, but do you know how, like, when you just put a shoe on, you kind of you can kind of feel what part of the body or the lower limbs that it's kind of
It's
like
working.
that it's working or it's loading.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like that Evo SL does work the plantar, or the sort of the bottom of the feet, more than, let's say, like, um the Puma Deviate. I'm just going to take that
Mm.
example again. It is a shoe that I kind of feel a little bit that plantar is getting extra work, but that's on me. That's like, we have a different gait, we run differently, and this is why it's so important to kind of, like we always say it, just find out what works for you and sort of understand your needs and
Mm.
like what's good to put on your feet. So yeah, I was interested to hear you say that, but definitely I
Mm. I
feel like
mean,
the Evo SL is more of a, like, I actually love running on the grass in it. I was telling you that, wasn't it? It's
yeah, yeah.
unreal for, like, if you get the grass when it's dry and it's been cut and it's kind of, it's not like a bog that we get here in Ireland in the winter or whatever. It's a class shoe for grass running, and like that progressive 10K that I did the other night where I finished at sub 6 minute miling, um that Evo SL just felt unreal. You can just clip along in it because it's so light and so nimble, and when you're in the grass, because you do have to kind of lift your knee a little bit more and you have to run with good form, that Evo SL just comes into its own.
I mean, I'm still yet to actually do any like speed work in the Evo SL, so I might end up giving it a crack in a couple of weeks' time. But I'll say in my defense, but yeah, as you said, it's all really subjective. But I've basically been taking like multiple pairs of shoes with me to work, to run in all week, just because more so I wanted to test what felt good on the hill, so I know what's going to give me most protection. But I know if anyone's interested in, I suppose it'd be podiatry or biomechanics even. But the reason I've gotten plantar fasciitis, and I knew this all along, is because I really heavily pronate on my left foot, right? So the muscles in the tib post are just overworked, not doing their thing, and that's leading to stress on the foot, which is meaning the plantar is getting overworked and not doing its thing. So realistically, on paper at least, any shoe that doesn't or that is results in less pronation should be better, as opposed to anything else. And I'm sure there's science as to what kind of supports overpronation and underpronation. But I know when I actually, so the Alpha Fly typically is one that I pronate in quite a lot. Yet I find it actually quite comfortable to run in. When I did like a little tester a couple of weeks ago, when it was still kind of not in a great place, that was more comfortable than say the Cloud Eclipse. So I think sometimes there's not necessarily that much rhyme or reason to it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I did, for whatever reason, it was just I ended up doing 15K, and the longer I was running, the more comfortable I was feeling. So that was like a big kind of boost for me, being able to do that comfortably and just get some Ks in. So my goal was, talking with Ant, he was like, I want you to get to about 60% of your mileage before we add in some intensity, which this really kind of, not that I was trying to hit a certain number for the week, but I was like, knowing that I could hit that number was quite a good feeling. And then Thursday, that was my last or my latest run. Um, I went out for, that was just an easy 10, and I took the Cloud Eclipse, and that was probably the best my heel has felt in total. So it is definitely getting better. And I
Good
should say that
stuff.
I'm doing rehab every day as well. I'm not just like letting it heal. It doesn't work like that. I am doing work every day around it. I'm doing a lot of kind of, obviously, the work on the ball under my foot to keep things supple. But I'm also doing a lot of like calf raises. And man, my calves are, especially my left calf, because I've been doing calf raises all week to try and strengthen the bottom of the foot and like holds, that kind of thing. My calf has been mega sore, but that
Yeah, no
felt
doubt.
pretty good as well. And it was just nice to finish off the week with just under 50k, which I was super happy about, bearing in mind my kind of average mileage is about, I'd say between 80 and 90k, there or thereabouts. So getting 50 in was really solid. And even just today, I think it was the first day where I've had moments where I've actually forgotten that I've got something there. So I'm walking pretty normally, even barefoot most of the time. It flares up every now and then, but big improvements. And then today I did a pretty long indoor bike session. I knew it'd probably be the last one, so I was like, I'm gonna enjoy this one. So just did some ramp ups to my kind of, what's my threshold heart rate on the bike, some longer efforts where I kind of go 2 minutes at 2 minutes ramping up the heart rate, not letting it go too much or to get too much above 160. In fact, I spent most of it in the 150s, which is where I'd spend a lot of my time if I was doing aerobic efforts running. And I caught up on some of the Dauphiné as well, something to watch while I
Yeah, it's
was
been
doing that.
decent.
It's been really good. It's been really good. So yeah, that got me through that. And then hoping all goes well tomorrow. I'm not running tomorrow, Saturday, but as long as I still see improvements, I'll probably get out for a progressive tempo on Sunday. I'll do 40 minutes, I think we've got plans, because I kind of been speaking to David throughout the week, just keeping him posted. And he was like, look, don't worry about any specific workouts. We'll just kind of ease back into some intensity. Aim for 40 minutes, start just below or just above marathon effort, working up to, so starting below marathon effort, kind of like 4:30 pace, and then working up to about kind of 4:20, maybe 4:10 in that 40 minutes. So I'm looking forward to that. And then hopefully things just continue to improve and I can be fit, or as fit as I can be, for Run Melbourne, which is literally a month today. So that's the half I've got planned, and I
Nice.
do not want to miss because it cost me a fucking fortune. So
$150.
$150, mate, 75 quid. Yep.
Yeah.
Uh,
Nice one.
yeah.
Great to hear it, mate. And you pulled up
Yeah.
okay from the 15k run wasn't too much for you?
No, honestly, it was like I think I've still got obviously that conditioning in my legs, so I didn't have soreness or anything. And yes, I think I kind of come off of it. There's I'd say there's tenderness in my heel, but it's one of those things that as soon as I kind of sit down for a bit, I typically, when I warm up my foot, so I've got a couple of exercises I do to get the structures in my foot working. So I basically go from being kind of flat and slightly pronated, do the exercises, they warm up, they kind of come into that more of that kind of arch, strong arch, and the pain goes away. So it's just staying on top of that really.
Good.
But I yeah,
Good news.
came off it
Excellent.
surprisingly well. So yeah,
Great,
pretty
mate.
happy.
Good.
And yeah,
Me
looking
too.
forward to some proper running. But with that being said, what's we've done pretty well to fill an hour today. I feel like that's actually flipping flown by. But
It has, mate.
um, before we wrap up, what's plans for the weekend, mate? Running?
Not, yeah, running. I haven't decided what I'll do exactly, but it'll obviously be slightly reduced with racing on Wednesday. Um, I might do some light threshold on Saturday or Sunday. I'll just see. Like, I don't know, maybe 6 by K or something. And then not much else, mate. No, not much else. I've been sleeping like a baby all week. I bought earplugs
Mm.
and they've changed the game for my sleep. Like, I sleep well anyway. I don't really
Yeah.
ever have an issue sleeping, and I would sometimes wear earplugs. Like, I've had earplugs for a couple of years, but they were kind of falling out in my
Mm.
sleep, and um I decided to purchase new ones, and they have been class. I've been wearing them all week, and they're like, I just can't wait to get into bed and put my earplugs in. It's great.
Yeah.
And there's no, like, just for reference, Kira doesn't snore, and there isn't like noise at home. But it's like when you put them in, the world just switches off. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
It's
Yep.
like sensories. It's like that sensory thing. Just, I don't know. I don't know the reason for it, but it feels lovely, and I just go off to sleep, and I've been sleeping like a baby. Like I think I'm going to sleep with them in, and I'm actually just not budging until I wake, like literally not moving. So that's been happening this week. If that's something to touch on, I don't know. What about you?
Have you,
What's
are
your
you an
weekend looking
eye
like?
just on the topic of sleep? Actually, are you an eye mask person as well?
No, I'm not.
Get on it. Do it now,
I do have one. Do you wear it?
mate. On a if I'm really like so before the marathon, yeah, I've been earplugs and eye masks for probably the past 4 or 5 years since just before COVID because I started like sleeping bad when I moved to Australia. That's a story for another day. But I've been earplugs and eye mask ever since, right? And Nicole does snore. She's not all the time, but she's got the nose strips that open up the nostrils. And so if I'm really feeling it, I'll kind of nick one of her nose strips. And again, I don't need it. I don't really snore. I don't suffer with like nose issues. But I don't know, something about you because you can feel it. You put on a nose strip, you can feel your nostrils open up, and it's so nice because you can just really focus on not mouth breathing during the night. And so I'll go full like earplugs, eye mask, nose strip. Don't tell her this, but she's got this very expensive like lip mask as well that helps like protect moisture in the lips if you really want to look after yourself. I'm the
Wow.
works, man. You should see me
Is that
getting
like
into bed.
is that the tape that stops you from breathing through your mouth?
No, that's
That's
something different. That's more
right.
to stop, or it's meant to like help against sleep apnea. So that literally stops
Okay.
you from breathing through your mouth. But um, again, if you're, I actually did some research on that for a post for my
Me
gym. I
too,
made some
actually.
content.
I must admit, me too. I read the book Breathe or Breath by, I think it's a fella called James Nestor. I read it a few years ago.
There's
Really
a book on
interesting,
it.
but yeah, it is. It's interesting, but I don't know. A bit
I think
skeptical.
unless you've got sleep apnea, I think the research is pretty clear that it's not really doing much, and you're better off just kind of
Well, the
addressing
physiology
sleep
and
apnea.
endurance guys actually did an episode on the nose strips. Now, not for sleep, but
Mm.
for running.
Yeah. Okay.
Because obviously there's a lot of elite runners that wear nose strips.
Yep. Yep.
And they found that yeah, there's pretty much no difference. But I mean, if it makes you feel better,
It's
placebo
gonna
is
work.
is
Yep.
is probably the most powerful of all, and that's probably why people wear them. I think that's why people wear, or sports people wear gadgets, um, all the time, because if it makes you feel better, it's going to make you perform better. Uh,
100%.
but the earplugs are a game changer, mate. Like you, I
Hmm.
have been wearing them on and off for a while. I did buy them. I tell you what I did when I went to do my teaching degree in Liverpool. I bought them there because we were living in halls, myself and my mate who lives in Melbourne. My
Yeah.
best mate. We went over to their teaching together, and we were living in halls, and it was so loud, and
Yeah.
that's when I bought them, and they changed the game for me there, and I would wear them now and then. But I've bought these new ones, and I'm putting them in every night now because my sleep has been class this week. So
You'll never go back. And one last thing I'll tell you is put a
I'll have
pillow
to get on the
between
eye
your
mask.
eye mask, pillow between your legs as well.
Oh really,
Trust me, man. Again, same thing.
mate?
I've been doing it for probably like 5 years. Keeps your pelvis in a really neutral position. I did it because I had back issues. And then you get used to it. And it's like, man, it's just so I cannot sleep without it. Like feeling my knees touch, my legs touch when I'm sleeping is a no go. Put a pillow between your legs. Trust me, man. Trust me. You're
I need
welcome.
to. I think we should get a good sit down off camera someday, mate, and just get all of your tricks.
Mate, I actually am a sleep guru at this stage because again,
It
because I was
sounds like it.
suffering with bad sleep for so long, I was like, I need to leave no stone unturned. And
All of
I'm
the
like you. I get
all
some
of
pretty
the
good
I
sleep.
know you're a parent, but I'm sure all of the parents right now that are struggling with their sleep are probably like, would them two ever shut up, because they're complaining about not getting perfect sleep, and we're getting like 2 hours sleep a night if we're lucky.
But I was there. I have this
I know you are,
conversation all
mate.
the time,
You've been
man.
in the trenches.
Honestly, I've been in them trenches, bro. And I'll tell you one thing, one last snippet before I go into my weekend is that a really good way to, if you're having like problems waking up during the night or just bad sleep as a whole, and this is I don't have a study I can reference off the cuff, but there has definitely been studies done that if you spend a period of time sleep deprived, and I think when they've done studies, what they've done is they've purposefully kind of limited people's sleep. It creates such a big desire or need for sleep that when you finally get it, the body resets and it's like, no, I'm going to sleep through. And because like me and Nicole, we suffered with bad sleep pretty much for 14 months before we went and saw a sleep doctor for our little one, like bar of maybe 1 or 2 months in the middle where he kind of came good. But where we were sleeping so bad, when he started sleeping through the night, so did we. And I hadn't slept like through the night since I was a child, basically, until this post kind of sleep deprivation phase. So, yeah, if you're a parent, and you're suffering with sleep, it does get better eventually, and if it doesn't, you need to see a sleep doctor. But B, your sleep will be so good when you can finally sleep again, and you'll be
Good.
yeah happy as Larry. But yeah, that's enough on sleep for me. We can chat about it off air, but yeah, my weekends, hopefully some good sleep again. But yeah, nothing majorly planned. We're gonna go see some friends tomorrow. Take Casper out for the afternoon. Um, Open some Pokemon cards, mate. Are you into Pokemon cards by any chance?
No,
No, I
no,
flipping love them.
not even in the slightest.
No, it's just something I never grew out of, and we've got some friends who are also adults. Before you say anything, that are into Pokemon cards, and I'm kind of coaching one of my old work colleagues, really close with her, and she went to Japan not too long ago and got me like a big, to say thank you, got me like a big box of Japanese Pokemon cards. So we're going to go over and open them with some friends, and then nothing on Sunday apart from the run. I'll kind of keep an eye on the Dauphiné, hoping Jonas can kind of take some stages in the hills, but
I don't
not
think
much otherwise.
I don't think he's got a sniff on Tade at the minute, but
Isn't he ahead of Tade at the moment? Because
is
he's
he?
absolutely wiped the floor with him during the time trial. Yeah,
Time trial, that's right. He did.
yeah.
He put in a time trial. That's right. You're
He's
right, he
really
did.
strong. He's not like he's obviously not the strongest, but he's really strong at time trial when he gets it right.
Bit of drama yesterday as well. Um, I didn't watch yesterday's stage, but I was reading about it. I think Remco had a bit of a crash, didn't he?
He might. Oh yeah, because he finished, but he crashed. He didn't pull out. He did make it across the line. Because it was a sprint stage, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah. Well, he's in the overall lead.
Yeah,
Remco Evenepoel's in the overall lead. I need to go and watch yesterday's stage or watch the highlights. I might do that after we finish. Um, But
I
yeah,
think
it's pretty good to have the cycling on. Oh, but did you watch? Sorry, before we go, did you watch the French Open final, the tennis?
I didn't. Nah, it's on
Oh,
a weird time
mate,
here. So
mate. Do me a favor. Do yourself a
is it
favor. If
Sinner?
you're listening to this, do yourself a favor. Sinner and Alcaraz, go back and watch the highlights. Highlights
Okay,
don't
all
even do
right.
it justice, but there is extended highlights and watch them. It was five-setter. It was a classic. Alcaraz was champion was three championship points down, and he came back and he won the title. So it was one for the ages. It was an absolute classic match, and some of the points were just yeah.
Huge.
You don't even if you didn't like tennis, I don't know. You couldn't you couldn't not enjoy this
Yeah,
game. It was unbelievable. It was
I, I
unbelievable.
s- I'll see what I can do in terms. I mean, it's easy enough for me to watch the highlights, but yeah, I haven't really
Some of the
watched tennis in a while, to be
some
honest.
of the shots, some of the shots that they were pulling out were just like, how have you done that? How have you done
Yeah,
that? It was like watching a Nadal Federer classic.
yeah,
So
yeah.
there's some new
I
kids
remember
on the block, isn't it?
some of their Wimbledons from a few years back, man. Yeah, class,
Yeah, unreal.
class. All
So
right.
that's the story anyway.
Yeah, well, it sounds like we've got it all covered. Pretty quiet weekends, but quiet weekends are okay. And yeah, I'm sure we'll touch base when next week and hear all about your your half. But guys, I think that's probably a pretty good time and a place to wrap up. And as always, just want to say thank you for tuning in if you've made it this far. We really appreciate all the love and support. And as always, if you have 5 minutes to kind of like or share the pod, it means the world to us. But otherwise, just keep watching, because we see you when we look at the stats, and it really does mean the world to us. So thank you as always, guys.
Q&A, look.
Adam. Yes. Oh, well remembered. So we spoke about this at the start. It's our
I'll keep
19th
you right, mate.
episode, and you do, mate. You complete me, Adam. Thank you, mate. And given that our 20th episode, I think it's a little bit of a landmark, a bit of a milestone. We've decided to let you guys kind of join in on the party, and we're going to do another Q&A. So by now, Wednesday, we probably will have posted a Q&A, but if you're listening to this and have missed that, feel free to just shoot us a question, just message us, even on our personal accounts or the Flow State account. We kind of check our messages, so we'll add them to the list. We might not get around to everyone, but worst comes to worst, we can always kind of dot them out over future pods and hopefully answer them all. But yeah, so keep an eye out for that. But otherwise, thank you again for listening, watching, and we are looking forward to podcasting again for you next week. Take care, guys. Thank you.